What's up, folks? I want to talk about the most cookie clicker build I've done so far in the Path of Exile 2 early access, and that is a Titan stacking reduced duration of skills with Ember Fusillade, one of those words, and Ghost Dance. The Ghost Dance idea was the origin point of the build. I saw a video by a creator named Panzerfaust, I hope I'm saying that right, who was doing it to make himself basically immortal by making it so that he has a very short duration Ghost Dance, same as mine, and it also pops off consistently because you have a lot of evasion. That gives you then a bunch of energy shield back to heal yourself with, and it was a really good way to become basically immortal in normal mapping. Of course, you can still get one shot because you don't have that much of a pool in my variant, but if you go something like Mind Over Matter like he did, I'm sure you do get a little bit more of that one shot safety. For me though, I saw the Ember Fusillade as a kind of addition to the build because I really wanted to build around the idea of reduced duration stacking as much as possible and make good use of it for a damaging skill. And since we were going Titan, originally I was going to go for the additional projectile nodes, but due to a weird way that Ember Fusillade works and snapshots the first cast as the number of projectiles you'll be casting, I'll explain that a little bit more in detail later, we ended up dropping those nodes and instead are snapshotting Wildshards into the skill itself. It took me a couple of days to figure out exactly what was going on with the projectile count, but it makes sense now, and I don't know if it's intended, but I'll show you what I mean later in the video. For now, the mapping is really smooth. Like I said, once you snapshot that wild shards, every cast is wild shards, and you are walking through the map. You have a massive amount of evasion, you have a massive amount of recovery, and you have auto targeting with the Ember skill so that you can just walk around clicking once, every half second or so, essentially set up a metronome and go ahead and go to town. I know Jungrun started this build the day after I did, so he actually memed and put up a metronome for a while. At least I got linked a clip of him doing that, so that was kind of funny. It essentially is the playstyle with this, is once you get into the rhythm, you really don't actually have to look at your screen at all. I've been just looking at chat, shooting the shit, and it's been a really good time just playing the build and kind of having something chill to do with in Path of Exile 2's mapping, because I'm not a massive fan of the mapping, so this made it a lot more easy to just have it as second monitor content, as Path of Exile 1 was many a times. As for single target, it's actually decently good at that. I've done Zeth 4, I've done Sanctums, I've done Arbiter up to 2, because I hate that fight so much, I haven't really bothered. I've just done all sorts of boss content. Citadels pretty much die instantly. You don't really have much of a worry in those. If the sand dude hits you in the face, of course that's going to hurt a little bit, but it's fine. For the most part, it's really comfortable for all of that. Zeth even can go into I'm going to throw hands forever mode and not really have too much of an issue because you could just run around, have a decent amount of recovery, and any small hit's going to basically heal you. Just watch out for the big hits in between. So that's worked out really well. And realistically, I've only spent about 10 divine in the build anyway, so it's been a super cheap build for what it is. And as a result of that, if you want to take it further, you probably can. You could probably spend more money on it, but you don't have to. It's actually a fairly cheap build to put together. So I guess let's get into how the build is built. And yes, we are a Titan, even though that seems really weird, and we do have a lot of travel this way, because, yeah, these nodes, not what we're looking for. We're looking for these nodes. So the big thing about this build is the increased effect of small passive skills from hulking form. This allows us to then stack the skill effect durations around here and up here, and that makes it so that both our Ghost Dance down here has a popping rate of 0.43, and it heals us for 927 energy shield when it pops, and it pops quite a lot. And we also have Ember Fusillade, which then has a hover duration that is a 0.26. And those numbers, this number is going to be very important, but general overview of the build. So that allows us to basically click and it fires off, and the same thing with Ghost Dance, it's just going off non-stop. Very nice. From there, we are having to just travel this direction as fast as possible to go get crit, to go get the evasion we need, to go get energy shield that we need, and down here we even jump over with acro to not have to travel down here. We're grabbing some acro and grabbing these nodes for the evasion, along with some things for anointments and stuff like that. Very weird tree, but it is just the reality of wanting to go Titan, wanting to do this kind of thing, you kind of have your strongest skills in this area of the tree, so that's where you end up. As for how the snapshotting works, and this is kind of the thing I'm going to hopefully be able to explain in a good way, what I'll do is I will do this and I will do that. And we'll start with this. So, the way that Ember Fusillade works normally is you cast it, and that hovers on you, and then it fires. So if you cast one, every cast from that point on will always be one. It will not be able to do anything else. If you have these nodes and it does not proc on the first cast, it will not proc on subsequent casts until all the embers fire off. That's why I don't have them anymore. I was going to go for these, and I was going to go for these. That does not work. If you have Scattershot, of course your first cast is 3, so all subsequent casts are 3. In my case, I have 1 on the first cast. Because of this, we are able to then run Ember Fusillade with Wildshards. So I have a 20% chance that the first cast has 8 shards on it cast. Chances are good I'm not going to get it for this video to actually like proc on this one, because I have to use this one to, there we go. So now every cast that I do, as long as I don't let them all fall off, so if I start letting them fall off like this and I click again, it's still a Wildshards cast. That's the important part. Every cast is a Wildshards cast from this point on. Now you'll notice there's still the delay between when I click and when they fire off. So, as we went Titan, if I switch back to my main weapon set, what I can then do is I cast with a cast speed of 0.28, which is just slightly slower than my hover duration of 0.26. What that means is when I click like this, basically the first one, if it casts only 1, it will fire it off before the next cast. So if I just hold the button down, it'll just keep casting until I hit Wildshards, and now every cast is a Wildshards cast. So essentially what you do is you go fish for the Wildshards by just holding the button down, and now you just walk around the map doing this. And you are just a non-stop Gatling gun. I'm just clicking once every, I don't know, maybe a second or so, and this is how you do it. And this is auto-targeting, so you are just walking through the map, not worrying about a dang thing. And the important part there is, for me, is I got enough of that hover duration reduction and got my cast speed just right, so I can just hold the button down. You can make it so if you wanted to, you can fish for it, you know, at the beginning of the map by just clicking once or twice, like doing this, and just waiting a little bit if you don't want to go all the way, if you don't want to use like arcane tempo and things of that nature. But that's going to be a personal preference for everybody. For me, I ended up having the cast speed right so that I can use arcane tempo and not have to get cast speed on my staff, thus saving me a lot of money on the staff. You can also go wand and focus if you want to. That would be another way to do the build. You don't have to go staff. It's just, this was very cheap for me because it didn't have cast speed on it, so I was able to use this to great effect. And once again, it just comes down to that fact that the first cast is snapshotted, so whatever this is the one you're going to be using. So you want to make sure that your cast speed never goes below your hover duration if you want to just hold the button down. You can have it go below if you're willing to kind of click and wait, click and wait, click and wait, but I wanted to make it as optimal as possible for laziness, and that's what I ended up doing. That you also notice as to why I weapon swapped. My second weapon is the same +7 fire skills, but with cast speed and mana regen and stuff of that nature with Sigil of Power. The reason is this is using a double weapon setup. So I have my first weapon tree to do the reduces, and my second weapon tree is doing the increases in the skill effect duration, AoE, curses, and increases up here. So that way I have really, really long effects on my other tree and very short effects on one tree because of Titan's nodes, once again helping both trees. So if my flammability is 24 seconds long in terms of its duration, my Sigil of Power lasts for 25 seconds, and it's actually quite large. There's a lot of space to use and walk around in this. And then also, of course, I've got Eye of Winter on the other tree for the crit bonus that it gives from critical weakness. I think that may not be affected. It feels sometimes in combat that it's not taking effect at all from the increases and reductions. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't fully counted that one, but Maybe someone in the comments can let me know if it is affected, but yeah, I haven't counted that one fully. But that's why we're using a weapon swap, one for reduced duration, one for increased duration, and then we've just changed those 2 trees out for that. You also notice I have Raging Spirits in here. Raging Spirits is just for Infernal Legion, Exposure, and Strip Away. Once again, for being maximum lazy. You can self-cast this with a Solar Orb or something like that if you want to do your Exposure in a different way. I just did Raging Spirits because it's really, really lazy, and once again, that's the whole point of the build, as to be as lazy as possible to play the game that way. Ghost Dance, like I said, is coming down to a 0.43. Of course, if we weapon swap, it goes down to a 4.56. I don't have it on my other tree here, the weapon set. The reason I don't have it there is because these stacks can sometimes kind of glitch out, and you get 3 on one and 1 on the other, or something like that. It goes really weird, so I'll just use it on the one that I care about, because I'm not really in this weapon set too long. I just do those and then switch back over. So it doesn't really matter, and I want it to be on the one that I'm mostly on, so just to not have to deal with the weird stacking buff thing that it does. And then finally we have Grim Feast. Whether or not this is useful or good is debatable. The thing about Grim Feast is, yes, you'll go over energy shield, so you have 3000 energy shield. It helps a little bit with one shots and maps, but of course your Ghost Dances will not be proccing before you go below that line, so technically you're wasting some potential there. But for the effect of just being maximum safe from one shots and mapping, I've used Grim Feast and it's felt pretty dang good just to have it in there, so this combo works okay, but I know it's not the optimal combo for the build in general. So that's pretty much what we're doing with that. Of course, Ember Fusillade Wildshards is in there with the Arcane Tempo Inspiration because the mana cost is pretty ridiculous. And then we have Considered Casting because, once again, we are able to kind of hover on that cast rate where we want to hover and not have to worry about that too much. And then finally, Fire Mastery in there as well. You can use the one where you have less of a slowdown when you're casting if you really wanted to do it, but mine doesn't feel that bad. As you can tell, you can kind of see when I slow down when I cast it, but it's not too bad. It's not that bad of a thing. So you can swap out stuff if you want to. There's other links here as well. Flammability, just curse and skill effect duration to make it last longer, because that is a mana cost of 638. Oh boy. And so I try to make sure that one is as cheap as possible. And the reason that this is a +7 fire skill specifically is because I get to keep the flammability level, but the Eye of Winter level doesn't get boosted, so I don't have to pay the extra mana cost of that as well. So that's only 77 mana for the Eye of Winter, and that's the reason I have that set up like that. That is as far as the skill is concerned. Now, when it comes to weapons, clears, and all that stuff, of course, like I said, spell damage +7 fire with crit chance for me because I went crit scaling on the build. It works really well with the combo. Then for the rest of it, it is actually just rares for the most part. My stats are, res capped, pretty much over res capped at this point. I could probably lose a couple rolls here and there and get some better gear overall, but for 10 divine that I've put into the build, I'm pretty happy with it. The one unique I have on my gear here is Snake Pit. I tried both Fork and Chain. Chain felt better in the early acts, like through the campaign, a little bit into mapping. But after a little bit, once I got enough damage, I'd say right around when I put the staff on at level 78, I switched over to the Chain, and that worked, Fork, that worked a whole lot better. It just felt cleaner, comfier, and just better to do that. So Snake Pit is the one thing you want to pick up. I actually haven't qualified this all the way up because I don't know if it will push me to a bad cast speed ratio. It shouldn't, but I just left it where it is. That's why it's 18% if you're wondering. Just be careful not to go below this line if you want the laziest approach of it. I should be okay. I should go to 0.27, but then we get into server ticks and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't want to mess with that. We have 18,000 evasion, so we do feel very good about that as well, but of course we don't go down for aggro like itself, so we keep that high evasion roll, but we just can't evade all hits, which is fine. And we're grabbing this by using a From Nothing, which is allowing us to allocate attributes from acrobatics. So that's what we do there. And then from there, the rest of the gear is, like I said, just life, crit bonuses, resistances, more life, more resistances, more mana, all evasion gear, all energy shield gear, whatever you can get your hands on. That's just pure evasion. That's evasion energy shield. This is just something I had. A bunch of resistances, bit of mana, bit of movement speed, some chaos res on there. I have too much chaos res at this point. Chest piece is just the biggest piece because you want that high evasion roll, so realistically the more resistances, life, and things like that you can get on the rest of your gear, the higher evasion roll chest piece you can get. And as a result of that, you will want this beastly skin, and the reason I have it here when it doesn't connect there is because I have this for Megalomaniac, for Split Skin, and Beastly Skin. Beastly Skin is the one that you really care about here to get out of the 3. If you want to go for mental toughness, Split Shot is for more forking clear, so it feels better, and then of course Beastly Skin to boost up the evasion of your chest piece. I self-valed this chest piece. I bought it for one divine. Self-valed it, went pretty well, and it's a bit it's worth a bit more than what I bought for it now, but still, you don't need to have every bit of evasion in the build. You're still gonna feel just fine overall. Amulet, +3 of spell skills, resistances, life, same thing as always. I've got spell damage on there. Just a lucky exalt on my part. And then helmet is 313 energy shield with a resistances, crit, and a bit of life on there as well. It's pretty much the same formula for everything. This one, I was buying a energy shield helmet because I was thinking about going for the subterfuge mask, but I ended up not pathing down there, not getting it, and not having enough annoyance or stuff to do it. It probably would have been worth it for the extra evasion that I could have gotten onto the build, but I ended up not really worrying about it as a result of that. I probably could have 20,000 evasion, but it is what it is. I don't really mind. I don't really care. The build's plenty tanky for me. If you really want to go ham on it, you can go for that. Or if you don't need this energy shield and you want to go for a massive evasion helmet, you can go that route as well. So I've already talked about the fact that I have a From Nothing here for the acrobatics, and I have a Megalomaniac for Beastly Skin. Those are the important things. Up here I have a Prism of Belief for +3 to Ember Fusillade. These were really cheap when I was picking them up. I don't know their current amount on the market or how much they are at the moment, but this was about 1-2 divine when I picked it up, which was a pretty good price for the build. And then this is the big one here in the middle for large, small passives, increase 3% evasion. It's not exactly mandatory to say. I have 18k with it, and I have 16.8k without it. So if you don't want to spend the money on this, by all means don't. You could probably get something better, cheaper to do this with. But if you have a 17% on a large, it makes all of these nodes also give you 5% evasion. So it's just a little bit extra on top. And you know, who doesn't mind that? If the nodes get boosted up and powered up, you also then get the benefits that all the crit stuff and all that stuff goes up as well. So this is a 15% chance to crit, goes up to a 16. That's a little bit of boost to those. It's not much, but you know, it's something. It all kind of compounds at the end of the day. And that's really all the gearing is for this character. There's not much else on it. It is very much based off of just rares across the board, with just a couple uniques that make it so you have a bit more skill levels. You're able to pick up things like this much easier, and then of course different ways of getting annoyance and different ways of getting things on the tree, so you have a bit more ironed out for yourself. Ascendancy is just more life, and then we also get the hits, stun up, crushing blows. I do stun pretty regularly on bosses, which feels pretty good as well. I actually completely forgot this thing existed until just now in the video. Anyway, I've done the entire build without even realizing that's there. So that tells you how smooth it's been for the most part. As far as how I leveled it, I just went Ember Fusillade right away in the beginning. I, of course, had a 4-socket version of this. I didn't have the full one yet, but I had 4 sockets in here, and I had some leveling gear. I just went the build right away. Just pathed straight into these, and then started pathing up all the way. I shot up right up through here and got to this first, and then I connected through the back end later on. But I just went for these nodes first, and then started going for the evasion nodes to get some life, evasion, energy shield, all that stuff, and then started going for the crit nodes as the final piece of the puzzle, and it worked out just fine for me in that regard. If you want to level up in other ways, by all means do so, but that's how I did it. Overall, it's been a really fun build. It's been a really cheesy way to play the game. It is one button for the most part, as you are just walking around clicking on a tempo. And yeah, you're pretty safe, you're pretty comfortable, and you don't have much else to think about when you're doing this, so perfect second monitor gaming content. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoyed it, by all means, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know as well. The pub is linked in the description below. And yeah, I'm going to go become Sonic the Hedgehog, because that's my next build, cast on dodge roll. I think it's going to be horrible. Let's find out. Thanks for watching. Peace.